Hello and welcome back to the British and Irish Eagles podcast. I'm your host, Liam O'Neill. We are Philly Sports International, and it is a special podcast this week because the man returneth, Tony Burton. Tony, I've been in the USA 4 months, and it is 4 months to the day since your last podcast appearance on May 1st, and 6 months before till the one before that. So, first of all, thank you for gracing us with your presence. Jokes aside, how's your summer been, my man? Gearing up for the Eagles opener this Thursday. How are you?
It has been a mental summer, but I'm great. Things are really good. Work has just been absolutely crazy this summer. Let me just take you back, Liam. I'll give you the 4 months, but not 6 months before that. I was on a couple last year. You're just winding up there. No, but things are good. Work's been good. A few changes in my job, actually. So I've written a few things that I think Phil and I are going to discuss whether or not we pop them in the newsletter or whether that goes on to a blog. But I've been building a distillery and buying a distillery in New York, amongst a gazillion other things. So things are all good, my man. Great to be back.
I love that. And I meant 6 months from today, not 6 months since then. So there you go. It's all in semantics. I love it. Listen, man, great to have you back. Feels like we're whole again. And it was great to have Mick on last week. We made a few guest appearances in between the last time we were on, but we're whole again for the season. Looking forward to your takes on Nick Sirianni this year, specifically, and Jalen Hurts. So that's going to be fun. But before we get into that and the news we've had over since we last podcast, Phil, how the devil are you, sir?
Good. I'm glad you guys can get yourselves together and come join me for a podcast for a change, because as much as you give Tony some shit, you've been absent for a few yourself, so I'm the only one who's here every week.
You've been the constant. I will give you that, Philip. Absolutely. Good to have you, man. Listen, there's a few things I just want to get into right off the bat. In terms of updates to the roster since the last time we spoke. Since the last time we spoke, the Eagles traded for Sam Howell. If anyone wants to laugh, when this trade came through, I was ecstatic for about 7 minutes until I realized it wasn't Sam Darnold we had traded for. It was in fact Sam Howell. For those of you who remember me.
Why would we traded for Sam Darnold?
I don't know, but that's what I thought was happening. And then, my excitement dwindled, the shorts lowered, shall we say, once I realized it was Sam Howell and not Sam Darnold. So we got Sam Howell in at QB3. Interestingly, today, McKee is still not throwing the ball. Bit of an emergency trade because we didn't believe McCord was ready to be the backup quarterback. That's where that trade is for now. Uncle Tony is in with a care package of beers. Here he is. The boys say hello. Say hello. Go Birds. Thanks, Tone. So they didn't trust McCord to be the backup quarterback. That's why we got Sam Howell in. So that's an interesting one. I want to get you taking that in a second. Few more updates. Audric Estime and Epps is back on the practice squad. Fred Johnson is back in the house. Talking about in the house, to the house, Britton Covey is back. We'll see if he can take it to the house this year. Willie Lampkin, we picked up a center guard. He's going straight to IR. And McCord and the wide receivers have made it through waivers, which are some of the poignant points that have happened since we last spoke. So I'll pause there. And Tony, as you're back on the podcast, Sam Howell coming into the building, is this of any relevance to you? And if not, who's QB3 come kind of mid-season? Is it Howell or is it McCord?
Well, hopefully it doesn't matter, Liam. You thought one Sam. I'm glad it wasn't another Sam. Sam Bradford. That one brings back a lot of unhappy memories for Eagles fans, despite wanting them for so long. It's a bit of a concern that Tanner's not throwing today. as you mentioned at the start up there. But it's all about injuries, and as long as Jalen stays healthy, we've got a great season ahead of us. So really, I hope that the Sam Howell thing is just a non-story all the way through the season. But Canterbury Key not being there could be a blow for us. Sam Howell, I'm a bit as excited as that as you are, mate.
I know. Phil, is this basically just who's coming in the fourth quarter when we're 40 up and we're protecting Jalen Hurts? Is that all we're expecting to see here?
Yeah, it's a nothing story, mate. Like you said, because they realise that Tanaka may not be ready. They wouldn't want to leave it to Carl McCord. DTR got released, obviously, so they just needed to bring someone in who wasn't going to cost an awful lot, just to sort of be there. The worst happens, but if the worst happens, then it wouldn't really matter anyway.
Well, more importantly, Britton Covey. All right,
Mhm.
Britton Covey's back. Crash test. Covey is back. What about this pickup, Phil? Are you happy to see him back? We saw today he was the first person up taking punt returns. Interestingly enough, AJ Brown was also taking punt returns today, as was Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson, and Cooper DeJean. A lot
I
of
don't think
talent
that's
there.
uncommon, though. I think previous seasons we've had Devontae Smith taking punt returns and that for like a handful of snaps. I guess it's probably just making sure that they could do it in the worst case scenario. It's all about that contingency planning. As for Covey, again, it's a different situation from sort of the last two seasons where we've had Covey, because Covey's been carried on the roster as like the wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6, but mainly because of his return specialism. Like, he was never really going to see the field, and now we've come into this season with a much better, much deeper wide receiver room, and that's why he wasn't anywhere to be seen until sort of bringing him on the practice squad, because he was available. I don't feel like there's going to be the same kind of crash test Covey to the house that we're used to seeing, because the wide receiver depth is much higher, and we're going to be taking players like that. It's not like there's a space for him, is what I'm trying to say. We don't need to have him up, so we'll probably be looking at players that are on the roster. So that's why you're seeing a lot of Cooper DeJean still doing it. I think Cooper DeJean is essentially the second, the punt returner 2, if you want to put it that way. The kickoff returner behind the guy that that's more expendable, such as the Covey kind of character. Whether that ends up being Mechie or Dotson or who else have we got? We've signed a couple wide receivers from the Patriots and Chargers. Brandon Rice has been signed to the practice squad, I believe, or at least there was rumours of it. There's all sorts out there. I just don't think that there's the space for Covey this time around.
So Tony, with what Phil says there, you don't think Covey's going to be a game day bring up from the practice squad to protect DeJean, Dotson, Mechie from doing these punt returns? I personally don't want to see DeJean returning punts, because
No,
I want him healthy.
Yeah, 100% with you there. I'm completely with Phil on this one. That I think we start off with Mechie on punt returns. Don't want to see DeJean in that position. Don't want to see the injury risk. The only way I see Covey coming up is either AJ or Devontae goes down, or even Jahan Dotson. And we begin to get to a point where Dotson and Mechie are playing a more significant role as wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. That being the case, I think he begins to protect. And if AJ or Devonta has gone down, then Covey could well come up, particularly if it's an IR situation, and start taking the punt returns.
Well, I mean, if AJ or Devontae go down, obviously, new wide receiver 1 will be Darius Cooper, my guy. The most talented wide receiver on the team, without doubt. No?
You can only bring up Covey a certain amount of times before you go put him on the 53 anyway. So I feel like maybe they will to start with, but it's just a different situation this year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, you mentioned we won't be seeing much of Covey to the house, and we never saw any Covey to the house, because he never got to the house. So it's expendable. Is probably the best way to use him. He's there to protect other people in the team. It'll be interesting to see what happens in that punt return, kickoff return scenario this coming Thursday. Oh my God, 3 days away from the Eagles playing football. Wow. does that make me feel amazing? All right. Well, with the other players that they've moved there for, Willie Lampkin is going straight to IR. Fred Johnson, Audric Estime, and Epps. Out of Sam Howell, out of all of those players, Tony, which one will have an impact on the Eagles' Super Bowl run this year?
I was just testing my mic here. Is that sounding okay?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
sound fine.
Yeah, good. I've actually picked out a couple, Liam. I'm glad you asked the question. One, because I need to give a big, massive shout out to Mick. He must be beside himself with excitement that Audric Estime is joined at least the practice squad. Him, of course, being ex Notre Dame. A bit of an interesting insight into him in that the Broncos GM had basically said, listen, he's not quite made the mark. J.K. Dobbins, RJ Harvey are going to be running backs 1A, 1B, and he just needs a bit more development. We couldn't afford to keep him in the 53-man roster. So it's an interesting insight in that he's a young guy, needs a bit more development. What better a place to come to as a running back when you need a bit of development and you need to be shown the ropes a bit more in the NFL. So might not make an impact this season, but I hope for Mick's sake that he does progress and maybe makes the 53-man. Hopefully not because of an injury during the season. The big one I want to talk about though is Willie Lampkins.
He got paid quite a bit by the Eagles.
He did, but it's such an interesting scenario where he's waived by the Rams because of injury. There's this unwritten rule in the NFL that you don't take a guy on waivers if he's been waived because of injury. I can't remember in all my years. I can't remember a guy being picked up the day after the 53-man cut who is put on waiver because of injury and then is picked up by another team. So there is a bit of chatter out there that's how he might have done a bit of a dirty on the Rams on this one. But what an exciting prospect. So the highest ranked PFF rookie for preseason, £290, 5'10", undrafted free agent. It's meant to be an absolute beast. So, Howie, do the dirty all you want, man. Just you keep doing how he thinks. So I think it could be really interesting to see when he comes back off IR if he then does replace someone actually in the 53-man.
You raised some really interesting questions. You had my mind racing there, and I was having to write some of them down. I was quickly reminded of Mick's comment in the British and Irish Eagles group the other day when we signed him, saying Jalen's fed up of trying to throw over 6'5" offensive linemen, which made me laugh at the time. Audric Estime, here's an interesting take for you, Tony. AJ Dillon is on a 1-year prove-it deal, likely going to go and play somewhere else next year. Similar kind of physical traits and play style. Is this more of a look towards 2026-7 season than perhaps this season? And a plug-and-play replacement fill. If Dillon does go down, you've got the guy in waiting. So that's probably, I think, where Howie's mindset has gone. And then second question, Phil, whether you agree with that or not. Second question: do either of you know if the Rams voted for or against the tush push, and could that be the reason that Howie picked up a guy on who was waived on IR? I'll Google unless if you can't remember.
Well, I'm pretty sure from the chatter around the unwritten rule, as Tony mentioned it, is that yes, they did vote against it. And I feel like that is like people are trying to draw that conclusion. Howie's not that kind of person. He's above that kind of thing. He might be happy that it's happy that they did. But unwritten rules bug me anyway, just from a personal perspective. I'm like, if it's bugged you,
maverick, Phil, that's why.
If it bugs you, something bugs you that much, write it into an actual rule. It's like
exactly
it's all going into the when you get promoted and you go into the mess for the first time as a senior rating, and you walk in and there's so many rules, but they're all unwritten, and it's like you do one of them wrong, you have to just hop on one foot and do a shot every hour for the next 3 hours, and it's just like just Just put them on the wall. I haven't got time to remember all this shit. I just want to come in and enjoy the new stuff that I've been welcome to. And it's the same thing with this unwritten rule. Then try and get it like the tush push. Get the tush push ban. Go and get your rules put in that you can't sign players if they're waived on an injury designation. But you're not going to get that. It's like it's a gentleman's thing, but it's like if someone does it, you can't get upset.
Yeah. Great song, Natasha Bedingfield, by the way, unwritten. Anyone who hasn't heard it should definitely give it a listen. Tony, you were vociferously agreeing with Phil there.
If it's an unwritten rule, it's not a rule. So dry your eyes and just get on with it, Rams.
Dry your eyes, mate. Another good lyric from a song.
Is this a game that we're going to play tonight?
No, I have no idea
how many
what's going
songs
on.
we can get in there.
Willie Lampkin, I'm really intrigued by that pick. But my answer to that question is Willie Lampkin is going to be the most impactful player for the Eagles this year. The Eagles have been fit forever. They've been healthy forever. Someone is going to go down on the offensive line this year. I don't mean to be Debbie Downer. It's likely to happen, especially with the injuries that can happen on the offensive line when they're in the scrum, if you will. All right. Some updates from practice today. No Landon Dickerson at practice. Another reason why Willie Lampkin could be important. No, he's going to be fine. Phil, I know you mentioned before we podcast, he practiced yesterday. He's probably being rested. But we'll probably get some news on that while we're podcasting as to why Landon Dickerson wasn't practicing today, because they have just finished practice or they're just about to in a second. Brett Toff, interestingly, took the snaps to left guard. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, when you mentioned it earlier, it got me thinking. It's like, yeah, Christ, we're in a game week. If we just come off if we're just in a Sunday, just come off a Sunday win, get into Monday, you'd be looking at your injury reports throughout the week, and because it's a short game week, there's I don't know if we get an injury report when the first injury report is, considering we've not played on a Thursday night to start a season before. I guess we're going to have to find out at some point, but I imagine you just see Landon Dickerson rest. These guys potentially coming off a miraculous knee surgery and being able to play week one. If he practiced yesterday, potentially there is something. Maybe he practiced and they're like, yeah, well, let's not overload it too much going into the season. Or they're just like, let's just manage it. He's practiced. We can see it's coming along well. Let's not overdo it. Go into Tuesday's practice and he'll be back to practicing, and then probably take the day off Wednesday and be ready to go Thursday, something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. But you never know.
You never know, but I think you're right, and I'm very hopeful. Just scrolling through Twitter to see if there was any update on Dickerson there as you were going through that. Couldn't find anything. Tony, maybe you'll have better luck. For me, the offensive line is the most important part of the Eagles' season this year, because it affects both parts of the game. We are very lucky. I was watching. I put in the chat earlier. I was watching Chris Collinsworth on a podcast earlier on today, talk about the Eagles' offensive line: Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson, Cam Jurgens. A lot of people saying he's going to have a bigger year this year, and obviously Tyler Steen has improved year to year. When you look at the season Saquon Barkley had last year, record-breaking season, over 2,500 yards, including the postseason. When you look at the protection that they give Jalen Hurts, if the offensive line of the Eagles is not healthy this year, then that is the biggest, in my opinion, detractor away from the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, more so than Jalen Hurts going down, which I know is a bold take for me to make. But I think there are so many weapons on this team. With a fit Tanner McKee, the Eagles still have a chance. Without an offensive line, I don't think the Eagles stand a chance with the way they play with Hurts and the way they play with Barkley. Tony?
Well, I'd taken a right good look at the notes, and of course, you've just posed those questions in the notes. Phil normally gives us the answers, so I've had to think of the answers myself this week. Absolutely, 100%. Scheduling injuries are the two biggest things that could impact on the season. Schedule's obviously a tough schedule. Injuries, we rode our luck to a greater extent last season. I've then, beneath that, put two things side by side. One is very similar to what you've just said. The drop off on the O-line from starters to backups is huge. And I really worry about the depth that we've got in that position. It's just so unlike us to be going into a season worried about the depth that we have, particularly in the trenches. But alongside that, I've written cornerback too. And I know it's going to be a question that comes up a bit later on in the pod. Beneath that, I've got AJ Brown's health. I worry a wee bit about that. We know that we don't play well when AJ's not in the field. Edge, question mark, and I think we're light at safety. So, any one of those could have a big impact in the season, probably none more so than injuries. But next on my list, Liam, was exactly as you've just said, the drop off from the starters on the O-line. And it just makes me shuffle in my seat.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because if you look, Phil, at the Eagles roster, with everyone fit, it's the best roster in the league, in my opinion. There is no better roster in the league. Full stop. It's not even a discussion. And that's a great place to be. But because they're the best roster in the league, we're paying these elite guys loads of money, which means we don't have that. We don't have that depth. So maybe it's a good place as a fan base, as a media outlet, to say that injuries are the biggest risk to the Eagles winning the Super Bowl this year and not talent. How do you feel about
injuries? I mean, I'd argue, I get it where you're coming from, the depth and the O-line, looking at them, that it's different. There's a lot of different names in there, but there's also a lot of familiar names in there. Fred Johnson's come back. That's moved the needle for me. Like he was great. He's come back and he knows the scheme from last year. Toth and Pryor, although slightly different variations of familiarity, are familiar, and they know the scheme. They know Jeff. Jeff knows them. And and Williams is had some good pointers in camp. So the rookies there as well. You never know, these players might come good. And we had no idea Mekhi Becton was going to be as successful as he was last season. We had no idea that he was going to beat out Tyler Steen and come in. There's lots of surprises that are going to come in. Things that are going to be like, the success stories are going to come through. They might not be as successful as last season, but we've got a lot of the same people. We've got a lot of the experience, and now most of them are champions. So you've got that carrying you as well. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong, but there's also a lot of things that can go right. And this time last season, we had no idea about the things that were going to go right last season. I think where we were after the 4 games, the sky was falling. We were getting ready to burn Howie, burn Sirianni, burn everything to the ground and go, right, this isn't working. We need to start again. And then we go on to win the Super Bowl in the next 12 games. And or the regular season games, we ended up sort of setting ourselves up for one of the best playoff runs ever to have existed. So trust that the team has learned their lessons from 2017, 2018. I feel like we're in a good position. But Tony is absolutely right. We were blessed by the injury fairy to not suffer anything particularly egregious. We suffered some significant losses, but at the end of the season in the Super Bowl, Brendan Graham was probably the most notable one, but he wasn't the number one defensive end guy. We had other guys coming through, and by the end of it, we weren't that bothered if Brendan Graham came back. He came back because more of a farewell than a necessity. So I have faith in that side of things. I'm not overly worried, but there are a lot of question marks. But then so was last season.
Yeah, and there's going to be lots of question marks as we have the ramp up to the first game of the season for sure. But it's going to be interesting to see how some of these play out. Now, got a question for you here. Talking about Thursday night, actually, do you know what? Talking about this season, forget Thursday night for a second. Not at every position, but give me one player on the offensive side of the ball and one player on the defensive side of the ball that you are most looking forward to seeing this year. And that could be because you want to see a bounce back. That could be because you want to see a solidification of that person's role or level in the team. It could be someone net new who you're excited about. Give me someone from the offensive side of the ball and someone from the defensive side of the ball. And Tony, I'm going to come to you first.
So offensive side of the ball, I mean, it's you could take the cop-out answer and you can say, I want to see how Jalen grows, and I want to see how AJ and Saquon and Devonta and Dallas, all of those guys do. I guess the one thing I'm a bit excited about is this connection we keep hearing that Jalen's developed with Johan Dotson. I think that could give us something completely different. We've never really had a decent wide receiver three. I've just spoken about the drop-offs between starters and backups in the O-line. We've been
We
exactly.
haven't had a decent wide receiver one, Tony.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about the luxuries, the
Yeah.
spoils that we've had over the course of the last 3 or 4 seasons with Devonta and AJ. But Dotson, I wouldn't think any of us were particularly overwhelmed by Dotson last season. He caught that sensational pass in the opening drive of the Super Bowl, or second drive of the Super Bowl, and I think that was the one that we all thought was a touchdown. Then, of course, turned into a tush push. So, I mean, if you can use that as a springboard and move on, it would be great, and it would give us a bit of comfort actually if AJ's health does begin to falter a bit and he does see more time off the field, that maybe we do have someone there that would be a suitable backup and a bit of support to Devonta. The one I'm most excited about, though, on the defensive side, and of course, again, you can say Jalen Carter and all the usual suspects, Q and Cooper DeJean and the like, Zach Bond. But the one I'm most excited about is Moro Ajomo. I think this guy could be an absolute, utter and total beast. Again, not exactly an overwhelming set of stats over the course of the last year, but playing alongside Jalen Carter, getting it. It was absolutely. I think just him taking another step forward, playing alongside Carter, could just really see him coming on in a defensive line. It could be, the answer to the next few seasons for us. So, on the offensive side, you had Dotson, defensive side, Ajomo.
Love it. Love both of those answers, especially Ajomo. I find him the most interesting prospect that the Eagles have going into this year. The one that I just don't know which way it's going to go. All signs point towards what you said. In camp, I think unanimously when the Eagles players were asked which player should we look out for this year, other than Darius Cooper, number one was Ajomo. And the prospect of Carter, Ajomo, and a better, fitter, faster Davis, which is what we're hearing out of camp. Who the hell needs defensive ends? Let's just get Bond and Campbell at linebacker, rushing the passer alongside the 3 defensive tackles. Sit on the bench, Nolan. Sit on the bench, Jalen. Don't need you. Nah, that'll be good. Well, what about you, Phil? Offensive and defensive player, or any comments on Tony's selection before?
No, Ajomo, I completely agree with that 7th round pick. Come on, he's stuck around the team. He's learned from the best, and he's been getting a lot of buzz. I'm certainly looking forward to him. He wasn't on my list though. For things, I think I was defensive wise. I'm looking at Campbell, and it's purely because I'm intrigued by his size, his stature, and the fact that he's going to be playing probably week 1, where that wasn't necessarily expected. The aggression, as we've mentioned in previous podcasts, the aggression and the intent to show it, and being the first round pick linebacker that Howie's taken, or the Eagles have taken in a long time. It's going to be interesting, the expectation around that pick, and being the number 1 pick is always the height. And I just feel like it's just a different, it's a unique, like we're used to sort of, we've had first round wide receivers, defensive tackles come in, and they have or haven't hit it off straight away. Linebacker Campbell, there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on that. Was Howie right to be not picking linebackers all this time? Or is it going to be like, why did you not start doing this sooner and shake off the moniker of not drafting linebackers in the first round much sooner? It's going to be interesting. So he's the one that I'm most keen to look forward to. Had a good pre-season games and that, but I feel like when game 1 comes and it's Dallas, you know that guy's going to be chomping at the bit to get out there. It's going to be interesting.
Just a quick point on that. Chris Collinsworth mentioned it again, because it's a fascinating interview, by the way. If you haven't listened to it, it's on YouTube. It was only released in the last few days. He mentions watching the NFL draft at his own draft party, not last season, but the season before last. And he mentions watching Jalen Carter go to number 2, go to number 3, go to number 4, all the way to was it pick 9 he was picked at. And apparently he's sitting there perplexed at what is happening. Like, this guy is the best player in the draft, not the best defensive player, not the best defensive tackle, the best, most talented player in the draft. And he said he feels similar with Jahan Campbell this year. Not that he was the best player in the draft per se, but that he was a top 10, top 5 maybe pick, and could not believe that the Eagles somehow managed to pick him up at, what was it, pick 32 or pick 31 or 30 to be traded
30,
for picks?
31. We traded with the Chiefs in the end, didn't we? So we
That was
moved up
it.
one just to
Yeah.
get him.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you're gonna ask me what person on the defensive side of the ball am I looking forward to getting excited about? Also, most likely to be ejected from a game, Jahad Campbell. For sure. I think he's going to bring a bit of juice that the team maybe lack with CJ Gardner-Johnson going. I feel like he's going to be the guy who's going to go and like have some big hits. Him and Sidney Brown. If Sidney Brown gets some game time, I can see those guys like really pumping up the
He's going to be
sidelines.
flying around.
Yeah, he's going to be everywhere. And also, just on that point, you kept mentioning linebacker, and it does look like he's lining up a linebacker. I think you're going to see him lined up to pass rush from the linebacker position quite a lot, just based on his skill set. Yeah, good shout, Phil.
Yeah, and offensive side of the ball, I'm going to just keep it short and simple. It was a toss-up between Mechie and Cooper because similar to Tony kind of going for the wide receiver style of things, I think Cooper, just purely from how explosive he's been coming from absolutely nowhere, the Eagles aren't going to be carrying a guy for any other reason than he has impressed them, and to do that in the way that he's done it, I can see him having a massive impact this season. And Mechie, it was tossed up between him and Mechie, was purely because Mechie's sort of had a bit of a up and down career, but he had so much hype coming out of college, and I feel like it was such an out of the blue move. But again, the Eagles have spotted something, and he looked really good in the Jets preseason game. So I'm going to side with Cooper just because it's just one of those fairy tale stories. And I'm just intrigued to see, given the fact that his route into playing is a lot harder than most other players that in the skill positions, he's unlikely to see the field. But I feel like the Eagles wouldn't have done what they've done with him if they weren't planning to use him more than you think.
Yeah, it's a really interesting pick, and I'm all in on Cooper. I can't wait to see what this guy can do. Just because he just always seems to make himself open and available, and he always that spin move that I saw live in the preseason game, the first preseason game, like when he stuck his foot in the ground, like live, that was just insane. And that's just natural talent and nous and instinct on the football field. And you look at his college stats, again, it's kind of like why the hell, how the hell is this guy not picked up by anyone? And one of the most important reasons, and this is a bit of insight from Big Dom, is that he was just one of the best guys in the locker room. It's probably been said elsewhere, but he's just such a great kid. And Eagles love having him in the locker room. They love having him in the dressing room. He's just got great character and professionalism, work ethic. And that's why all the players love him. And that's, one of the reasons why I think he made the 53 was his character as well as his athletic ability. So yeah, very excited to see them. It's just giving my two picks here. The defensive side of the ball, like Ajomo and Campbell, like lock picks for this question. But I'll throw some others. I'll throw some others in the mix here. Who I'm also looking forward to seeing on the defensive side of the ball. Makuba, I'm looking forward to seeing how he plays. He plays at safety. I'm looking forward to see what Trotter does this year. I think we could see more Trotter than a lot of people think we're going to see this year. I can see us playing with 3 linebackers on occasion. But I think the person I'm most interested in seeing outside of the 2 guys you mentioned and outside of Jalen Carter, which is obviously a cop-out answer, is Jalen Hunt. And that's because I haven't got a clue what's going to happen. Not because I'm really excited to see, Jalen Hunt. Not because I'm as high on him as a lot of beat writers seem to be. Just because I haven't got a breeze how it's going to work out. My only confidence for Jalen Suggs, other than his physical traits, is the fact that Stoutland thinks he's good enough to be a starting defensive end. And we've seen Stoutland's approach to people who he doesn't feel like are defensive ends. So if he thinks Stoutland, what am I talking about here? Fangio. If Fangio thinks Hunt is good enough to be a defensive end, then that's good enough for me. I'm just really intrigued to see how Hunt plays, because for me, he is the biggest boom or bust player in this entire Eagles roster, alongside Tyler Steen on the offensive side of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, as I was just alluding to, AJ Brown for me. Injury last year, just got his 1,000 yards, was 1,490 the 2 years prior. There's a lot of talk about AJ Brown being the best wide receiver in the NFL. A lot of Eagles podcasters believe that. I believe Bo and EJ Smith were talking about it the other day on their podcast. And I don't know. I don't know whether he's the best wide receiver in the NFL. I think he is a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL. I don't know whether he's better than Chase and Jefferson. He can do it all. I suppose that's the biggest difference for AJ Brown. But to be the best wide receiver in the NFL, you have to be consistent. You have to be healthy to be given that moniker, I think. And AJ hasn't always been healthy in his career. I know that's a harsh thing to say, but it's a fact. It's a fact. You need to be the best wide receiver in the NFL. You need to be consistently throwing up the most touchdowns and the most receiving yards, most yards per reception. His stats are great. I'm not saying he's not the best in the NFL, but what I'm most interested to see him this year is 2 reasons. One, I want to see him prove it and back up him saying he's the best in the NFL, and what that will look like would be spectacular for the Eagles. And 2, I think with our new offensive coordinator, who was a quarterback's coach, I'm intrigued to see Jalen throw the ball more this year, and intrigued to see what the relationship between AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts is going to be this year. So for me, it's AJ Brown on the offensive side of the ball, because I think he could have a career year this year, and I think we could be talking about AJ Brown more than we're talking about Saquon Barkley, if the play calling allows it. Thoughts on those 2 picks, gentlemen?
Yeah, what a cop out going for AJ Brown. Jeez. No, fair point. I mean, it goes into probably something that we'll maybe talk about later in the pod about expectations for the season, and why maybe I'm slightly lower down than other people is because I feel like stuff like the AJ Brown hamstring and stuff like that isn't being talked about or considered as much, maybe because we're high from last season. We just think everything's fine and everything's going to be okay. But actually, if this was the season not coming off a Super Bowl win, this would be AJ's injury would be getting talked about a lot more. As you know, are the Eagles going to be able to win the Super Bowl if AJ Brown isn't fully fit? But it feels like it's not getting talked enough. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does this season.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. But we shall move away from that now. And just Saquon Barkley is the guy I just mentioned a second ago. And Saquon Barkley had 50 snaps per game last year. Ridiculous number of snaps. Question I'm putting to you both is, and I've posed this on previous podcasts, not the question, but I've talked about it. And that's how many snaps do AJ Dillon and Bill Shipp take away from Saquon Barkley this year? So if he averaged 50 snaps per game last year, Tony, I suppose 2 questions here. How many do you want to see him take? And how many do you see him taking?
I think it's a really good segue, Liam, into what you've just said about AJ Brown and Devonta Smith and Jalen. And I have to agree, I think we'll see a bit less of Saquon this year. And I'm not necessarily unhappy about that. I think as Saquon gets a bit older, we need to protect him a bit more. I think we've got this power back with AJ Dillon, who we could see playing a bigger role, third down, third and shorts, maybe just out with the tush-push kind of territory. So to answer your question, Saquon snaps between 60 and 65%. So 2/3 of the snaps to Saquon, which will be less than last year, particularly if he was on the field for 50 snaps. But I'll hang fire on the overs and unders for the wide receivers and from Jalen in terms of passing and receiving yards, because I think that just cements where my head's at for this season.
Interesting. What about you, Phil? And I'm going to come back on both of you on this point.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be less. I think partly because they trust Will Shipley now. He's got a year under his belt, a lot more confidence in him, and Dylan is obviously a very similar like power back type player. So there's more opportunities to bring Saquon out of the game because we give him a rest, not pound him into the ground. We were fortunate that what we did with Saquon didn't come back to bite us. And I think this season, not because of any reason or any doubt or any mistrust in Saquon's ability to do the same again, like you said, it's protecting Saquon, but also because the players behind him are a lot better.
Yeah, it's if I on that point, if I was to ask you guys which running back had the fastest 40 time, AJ Dillon, Saquon Barkley, or Will Shipley, who would you go for? This is not planned. Who would you say had the fastest 40 time?
Will?
Tony?
Well, it seems like a ridiculously obscure question, so I'm going to say AJ Dillon.
No, it's not. No, but that was what I was Googling because I was hoping it was going to be AJ Dillon. So it is Will by 0.01 of a second. Barkley ran a 4.4 flat. Shipley ran a 4.39, which is rapid for a running back. Like really seriously rapid for a running back. AJ Dillon was 4.32, which is also not slow for a running back. Average between 4.5 and 4.9. So 4.5 and 4.59 is the average for running backs in the NFL. The reason I Googled it and asked was because I remember watching AJ Dillon in practice the other week, and not sure if I mentioned that. And he looked absolutely rapid, like faster than I expected. I wouldn't be surprised if he is faster now than he was when he ran in the NFL Combine, and his legs are just ginormous. I think the Eagles have the best running back room in the NFL. I don't think it's close. And with the addition of Estime as well, I've no issues on the running back side of the ball. All right, I'm gonna stay with Barkley, and because it makes sense to. Last year he had 2,005 rushing yards in the NFL in the regular season. He was withdrawn at the chance to break the regular season record, which then maybe gave him the juice to go and break the regular and postseason record, 2,500. That was the first time he hit 2,000. He hadn't done much more than 1,500 before in his career. Given the drop off, I'm putting the over underline, and I did a bit of research online as well. I'm putting the over underline on rushing yards at 1,700 yards for Saquon Barkley. Mr. Phil Mount Stevens, you taking the over? You taking the under?
Yeah, I'm taking the over still. I feel like it's definitely within his grasp. I mean, I thought you were going to ask me whether he was going to hit 2,000 again. Slightly more difficult question. I think things are just different, but I think they're going to manage him better, and he's just going to be much more explosive and still get a heck of a lot of yards. That's 100 yards per regular season game average. Seems perfectly reasonable without burning him into the ground. So I'm going to go over.
Interesting, Tony.
Yeah, for the sake of conversation, I'm going to go under, and I think the line is a bit low at 1,700. I think probably 1,800, 1,900. I would have answered it a lot more easily as an under. But again,
not many people do 2,000-yard seasons though in the history of the NFL. You got to look at the average.
They don't. You're right. However, not many running backs have the O line.
Or our Saquon Barkley.
That Saquon is operating behind.
Fair.
And I think if you look at our schedule for this season, particularly what certainly New York have done in terms of their draft, what Washington have done in terms of their free agent acquisitions, I think these teams are gearing up, particularly in our own division, to try and stop the run.
Dallas the trades the other day. Glenn Parsons go bringing a D tackle in, 3-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah, indeed.
But we kind of had that last season as well. The teams that we were going up against, we were like, oh, they're really good against the run. We smashed them quite often. We were expecting the Eagles, we're going to have to pass it more. Our predictions always reflect, they're going to have to pass it more. So AJ Brown's going to have the most yards or score the first touchdown, and then Saquon Barkley goes for 250 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and you're like, okay.
Well, someone playing to the same level as Becton would be a big part of that. You need to have all 5 pieces of your offensive line working if you're going to have a 2,000-yard rushing season. Which again is why that offensive line is so important. I was again Chris Collinsworth listening to his podcast earlier on today, and Saquon Barkley was asked to go on the Jimmy Fallon show, and he refused to go on without bringing the entire offensive line with him. It just shows you how important it is.
Or the Fallon's just a prick.
Yeah, or that, which is also true. All right. Okay. Well, then, just while we're here, is Saquon Barkley getting 2,000 yards this year? Yes or no?
No.
Very doubtful, so I have to go no.
Yeah, cool. I'm going the under on 1,700 yards. I think they're going to protect him more. He's a year older.
Either this is an incredibly long pause, or Liam has lost his connection. There he is. He's back.
What was the last thing you...
the last thing we heard was you stopping speaking, Liam.
Oh, okay.
There we go. You're back again. Shoot.
I basically said I have the under for Saquon Barkley at 1,700. I think the Eagles are going to throw the ball more. I think the running back room is better, and he's a year older and going to protect him a little bit. So I'm taking the under. I see him somewhere between 1,500 and 1,700 rushing yards this year, if anyone cares about my opinion. Alrighty, let's switch up tracks here a little bit. Cornerback room has been a topic of discussion for a while. Tony, you mentioned it earlier on in this podcast. Who do you see playing CB2 on the outside opposite Mitchell? Obviously, with Mitchell and DeJean being in a nickel position, who do you see suiting up on Thursday against Dallas? And who do you see suiting up after week 6? Are they the same person? Or are they different?
Well, I think the week 1, week 6 is an interesting squeak to this question, Liam, because I actually think that it could change week 2 or as early as week 2 or week 3. I think it's a racing certainty that we line up on Thursday night against Dallas with Q and Adoree Jackson. And I also think that Adoree Jackson could get absolutely torched by George Pickens and CD Lamb.
Yep.
To the extent that Vic Fangio says no more.
They might need Vaseline after that game.
Oh, I've just had PTSD from 2 years ago. Thanks, Tony.
Bradbury.
Yeah. When are we going to decide if he's going to make the 53 man this year or not?
I'm uncertain right now, Tony. I've heard he's trying out. He's trying out as punter to try.
So to answer your question, whether it's week 6 or not, so week 1 will be Q and Adoree Jackson. I really hope that this prophecy doesn't come off, but I fear the worst in that, and particularly those matchups on Thursday night. If we lose the game, and I don't think we will, but I think our biggest risk is at cornerback against Pickens and CD Lamb. I think as early as week 2, week 3. There could be a bit of a rotation of Keely Ringo, Williams, but I think Jacory and Bennett will end up as being our CB2 as the season progresses.
I completely agree. We 100% agree on that. I think that's what's going to happen, especially when you consider Dak Prescott and those 2 wide receivers you mentioned, followed by a fit Stafford and Nakua, and followed by the Chiefs with Mahomes. Could be a bloodbath for Adoree Jackson the first 2 to 3 weeks.
And the Rams have just announced that Stafford will make it for week 1 as well. So
interesting.
It seems as if he is fit. So that's Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, and a fit Stafford, followed by the Bucs in Tampa in week 4, and Baker Mayfield, which never augurs well for us.
No. That's nightmares for Philadelphia fans going to Tampa to watch the Eagles play. Phil, do you agree, and we can move on, or do you disagree?
Yeah, I'm gonna agree, but I feel like we could have like, you know, when we had so many different combinations of starting O-line a few years ago, it became ridiculous. I feel like the starting combination of quarterbacks going to be all over the place for the first 4 games until Fangio sees something he likes, and I just couldn't put my finger on exactly who. So I kind of feel like I can't really answer it. So I'm just going to agree with you guys and say that the large gist of it, I feel like it makes sense. And that's if you're a betting man, but I reckon it's going to be worse than that in terms of, you know, everyone's going to get a shot in the first couple of games.
All right, I'm going to pick up the pace a bit here because we got loads of questions left here to get through. Same question for safety, gentlemen. We've got only 3 safeties on the 53-man roster in Blankenship, Kuba, and Brown. I suppose my question here is less so week 1 versus, you know, more so who is the starting safety as the Eagles enter the playoffs? Is it Brown and Makuba? Is it Blankenship and Makuba? Is it Blankenship and Brown? Who's going to win out in that second safety spot?
It's going to be Blankenship and Makuba long term. I think that's the unanimous feeling right now. Is that's what the Eagles want and that's what they're expecting to happen. But as you say, at the start of the season, there's still going to be a few testing out of certain people in certain positions to sort of A for depth. So we want to know Sydney Brown's got what it takes to be the depth piece in that rotation. But I think it's clear intention that Makuba, 2nd round pick, and Blankenship Ghost coming off an epic season is going to be the number 1 guy. Makuba just behind him.
Yeah, I think it would be. Go ahead.
Sorry, Phil, completely the same place. But the question I've got for you guys is, am I the only Eagles fan that really worries about Sydney Brown?
No.
I see him as a bit of a liability. His temperament a question. You know, he's injury prone because he can't stop himself from going in for a ridiculous
tackle. He's a psychopath. He's an absolute psychopath.
And I guess you need a bit of that, right?
You do. You need a little bit of that, but he nearly broke his brother's legs when they played him in preseason. I get a bit of juice, but like I'm not joking. Like, he genuinely nearly did his brother's ACL in. If you look at the tackle he took to Chase Brown,
abysmal.
It was horrendous. It's his brother, for God's sake. And you need a bit of that, but you know, there was the fight and the scuffle last season. Every time he gets fit, he goes into a tackle too hard and injures himself. I think the word liability is the right word, Tony, and you know, which you just used. I see Chase Brown as a liability. I think the Eagles. There's a question further down here about what position do we trade for during the season. I think one of the key areas where I think we could do is safety, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's because they need a backup because Sydney's been entered into a mental asylum, or or he just can't play. So yeah, completely agree. And I think it's a bit of a disaster for the Eagles if the 2nd round pick at safety is not a starting safety this year. That will be a big miss by Howie if that's the case. All right, moving on. Next question. Who ends the season at wide receiver 3? I think there are 3 people who could end the season at wide receiver 3. If it's not either of these 3, then we've been decimated by injuries, and I would be scared as to what is coming. So your 3 options are Jahan Dotson, Mechie, who we just drafted for, and Darius Cooper, the stalwart from camp. Phil, I'll go to you first.
It's going to be Dotson. I feel like he's established himself well last season towards the end. I think it is just going to be a case of opportunity. The other 2 might get chances here or there, but I think it's well established that Jalen Hurts and Dotson have had better and better chemistry at the end of last season through camp. I don't see any reason to overthink this one. I think just the other 2 are going to get rotated in here or there, injuries and time off the field for whatever reason might shine here or there and give a shout to start ahead of him. But I feel like it's Dotson's to lose.
I mean, Tony, is there any point in me coming to you considering Dotson was your person who you were most excited to see on the offensive side of the ball?
No, I'm in complete agreement with Phil on this one. I think only a massive drop off and something going catastrophically wrong for Dotson wouldn't see him at wide receiver 3, or just a huge step forward for particularly Cooper. I don't see Mechie doing it. but Cooper could be the guy that steps into the breach. But I'm going to hand over to you, Liam, and you're going to tell us why it's Cooper.
Yeah, you literally been doing it. I don't know. I was literally just about to say you're both completely fucking wrong. This future Pro Bowler Darius Cooper is going to be the wide receiver 3 by the end of the year. Combination of injuries and a Jahan Dotson who just doesn't quite live up to the hype. But more importantly, Darius Cooper is going to have a number of big plays in the early to mid part of the season. He's going to earn Jalen's trust and the hearts and minds of Philadelphia Eagles fans all around the world. So give me Darius Cooper for wide receiver 3. By the end of the season, that is the question. By the way, it's not week 4, week 5, week 6. It's by the end of the season. Darius Cooper is wide receiver 3 for me. All right. This is an interesting question, gentlemen. We're moving around the squad here a little bit. Who has more sacks this year? Is it a Jomo or Jordan Davis? I feel like this is going to be a unanimous answer, which will be a surprise based on where they were drafted. But I'm intrigued nonetheless. Tony Burton.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Jomo. It is quite exciting to see, as you rightly pointed out, that there's this leaner, meaner, more svelte-looking Jordan Davis, and you just wonder if it's kind of dawned on him. He's coming into a contract year. He's going to have to show something completely different. But based on the evidence of what we've seen so far, I can't see past the Jomo as the answer to that question. But what I would love to see is the two of them fighting it out, getting towards double digits in terms of sacks this season. Doubt it, but it would be lovely to see it.
Philip?
Yep, completely agree. I'm not going to hammer it home.
Okay, I disagree. I think Jordan Davis is going to have a breakout year this year. I think based on Tony's points, he is really going to hit home. I think there's going to be a number of times where the three of them are lined up at the same time, and I think Jordan Davis is going to be the guy to get home. I know he's better against the run. I know he's not a pass rush guy. I just have a feeling people are going to be double teaming Jalen Carter, triple teaming Jalen Carter, and both Ajomo and Davis are going to have opportunities. And Davis was a first-round pick. The electric traits are ridiculous. He says he's at the way he should have been in his first year now. I'm excited by that potential, that talent, and that ceiling to what he can do in a contract year. Man's going to get paid if he wants to eat. So the better scenario for me is Jordan Davis has a better year this year. Not that Mario Joma doesn't have a good year, but the better scenario for me is Jordan Davis. We invested the first-round pick in him. Let's see if the guy can eat. All righty, we're gonna have to watch this podcast back and jot all these down because we're gonna need winners and losers at the end of the season. Phil, I'll give that job to you. You don't do anything for this podcast anyway. Joke, you do it all. Right, next question. Jihad Campbell. I've given him the over/under sacks at 7.5 sacks. Bear in mind he's playing as a off the ball linebacker, pressing and rushing the passer and the quarterbacks in the league. The reason I did it at 7.5, I looked at the first round linebacker edge picks last year, and you had Verse, and then there was another guy who got 8.5 sacks, and then but you also had Darius Robinson, who had seven sacks last year, or 7.5 sacks last year, and he was picked 27. So I figured similar area that he was picked last year. So I've given the over under at 7.5 sacks. Personally, I'll be delighted if he gets more than 7.5 sacks in his first year. But Tony Burton, over to you.
I'm going to go under, but I really thought about this one. I mean, 7.5 sacks for a linebacker is a big number, but it almost depends on what happens at edge. So there's all the training camp stories of is he a linebacker? Actually, let's try him at edge. Seems to be quite good. Comes back to linebacker and absolutely balls out a linebacker. So that's it. You're a linebacker now, son. But if it's not working out with Jalix Hunt and Nolan Smith and these guys, and no doubt we'll do the over under in them as well, then he could get moved up and he could get over the 7.5. But for where we see him playing, and the strength of our D-line and the typical tactics that Vic Fangio deploys, I would say it's a real stretch for a linebacker in the Eagles to be over 7.5, so I'm going under.
Don't totally disagree, but I'll keep my point in check. Philip?
Yeah, I'll go under. I feel like 7.5 is quite a high expectation. I know I'm looking forward to him coming out, and I don't think it's unachievable, but I'd say it's around 4.5 would be comfortable over and under for me.
I think 4 to 6 is probably the range, but to be different and to be positive, give me 8 sacks this year specifically, just over 7.5 for Jihad Campbell. I can see him blitzing down the middle like loads. I can see him spreading that defensive line, bringing Jihad Campbell into the middle, and then just blitzing up the middle and just taking their lunch money. Like I could just see him taking quarterbacks' lunch money all year long. I'm more saying that I'm kind of willing that into existence rather than full belief. But I'm Irish. I get lucky every now and again. Give me 8 sacks on the over for Jihad Campbell. Good stuff. Nolan Smith, 10 sacks, over under. He had 6.5 sacks in the regular season last year, but he had an incredible postseason where he had 4. So 6.5 in the regular. This is based on the regular season, obviously. So the 10 sacks is more about him, developing another year, what we saw in the playoffs, and the expectation, which surrounds him as another first-round pick for the Birds. Was he picked up at the same spot as Jihad Campbell? Was he 30, 31, 32? Should already know that. I'll go and check. But while I do, Philip, stay with you. Nolan Smith, over under 10 sacks. What have you got, my man?
I'm going under, purely because he's obviously still coming off the back of quite a significant injury in the Super Bowl. It's probably going to be a slow start, I imagine, for the Eagles and himself. So I feel like 10's quite high. Not unachievable again, but I'm going to say an under just because of that.
And it was pick 30, one pick before Jihad Campbell. Just did a quick research there. 2 unders for Phil, not fancying the defensive line this year. Tony, what have you got?
This pod is turning out to be far too cordial and affair. We're just agreeing too violently. I want to fight with someone about.
I mean, I disagree with you every single time, to be clear.
Yeah, but you always do, Liam. Everyone knows that you just disagree with me all the time, so there's no real surprise there. I am going under.
Love and affection, Tony.
I am going under 10 for Nolan Smith. I think he actually, to an extent, becomes a bit of a victim of his own success this year, and I think. Offensive coordinators are going to be looking at him as being the real danger man on the edge. And as such, exactly to Phil's point, coming off an injury, a bit of a slower start, and there being a bit more of a focus on him and, not some of the guys that he's standing on the shoulders of previous years. However, as we go to J-Lex Hunt, that may change in terms of the unders and overs. But Liam, where are you with Nolan Smith?
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you on this one. I feel like Nolan Smith is going to cause a lot of pressure and is going to allow the defensive tackles to get a lot of sacks by pushing the quarterback inside. But because of his speed and his versatility, I just don't see Nolan Smith as a 10+ sack guy in general. I see him being an important player. I see him dropping back into linebacker coverage at times, which I don't necessarily like, but I can see it happening. I think he's going to be an important part of the Eagles. I think he's going to have a good year, if not magnificent year, 6 to 9 sacks, somewhere in that range. Yeah, I agree. Well, let's stay with you, Tony. Tony B. J-Lex Hunt. What are you giving me here? I've said he's the most mercurial, interesting player for me this year because I haven't got a breeze what's going to happen. Do you have J-Lex Hunt over and under 7.5 sacks?
For the reasons you've actually mentioned earlier on in the pod. So actually this relationship, Liam, is you disagree with me and I sometimes agree with you. I think that's what a partnership is meant to be all about. I've got J-Lex Hunt over, and I'm in a similar place to you about J-Lex Hunt. I think he will benefit from being on the opposite side of the line from Nolan Smith and Nolan attracting some of that attention. And I think as that side of the line collapses, I think J-Lex Hunt will have a much better opportunity to get home. So J-Lex Hunt over 7.5 for me.
I would love to see that. Phil Mount Stevens.
Under.
You're under all of them. Jeez, I hope the defensive line aren't watching the British and Irish broadcast today,
I mean,
because
think about it a little bit sensibly. You're talking 7.5 for Gerrard, 10 for Nolan, 7.5 for Jadix Hunt. Those are epic numbers
yeah, but
as a
you've said the
team.
under on all of them so far, so surely
Yeah, but
someone's
only
going to get nowhere.
yeah, but I would probably gone over if Nolan Smith had been slightly lower. Let's be honest, 10 sacks is quite a high over and under marker for any
This is the
defensive player.
man who last year said they were going to break the sack record last year, Phil, if you remember.
Yeah, I did say that. I don't feel that way this year. So
Yeah, you've been burnt, haven't you? You've been burnt by the defensive line, so you're going the under
I'd
this
love
year.
to be wrong. I'd love to be wrong. I'm just going with the fact that I feel like those are high over and under markers, and they'll get slightly under, but they'll still be epic seasons. And there are other players not listed that will also contribute to the sack numbers, so they can still. I'm looking at the team rather than the individual on this one. I feel like the defense as a whole is going to get a high number of sacks, but it's not going to be.
Well, I don't know how they're going to get a high number of sacks when you go under each time, but I do agree with you. I think 7.5 is a bit of a stretch for Jadix Hunt. I think Nolan Smith is more likely to get over 10 than Jadix Hunt is likely to get over 7.5. So I will agree with you on the under for Jadix Hunt. Over under number of times Tony says Sirianni should be sacked this year. Phil,
There'll
get
be
you first.
there'll be 6 on Thursday.
Yeah,
So
right.
yeah, I'm going over.
By half time.
Yeah.
Can I actually come in there? I know it was a very
Did you see that in the pod notes before the podcast? Or
Of course I did. Have you seen the question after it?
No, I haven't actually.
Well, maybe you should read that question before we all start laughing.
Yeah.
But whilst Liam is reading the facetious response I've made in the podcast notes to this question, how many times will Tony say that Sirianni should be sacked? Actually, there's a bit of an extended answer to that. And the answer to that question for me depends on Kevin Patillo.
Mm.
And if you remember back to my absolute tirade about Nick Sirianni, which Phil, I think it was you and I that were on a week 2 or week 3 pod. It might be after the Saints game early in the season last year. And I just went apoplectic, just lost the plot about Sirianni, wanted him gone. Never been so wrong in my life about something. But if you remember, that rant was about allowing Kellen Moore to do his job, to stay in his own lane, do what he's really good at, Sirianni, and that is to be the role, to act as the role as a head coach, not a play caller for the offense or a play caller for the defense. Do what he's really good at. So, to answer your question,
have used the word cheerleader at times, but go ahead anyway.
Yeah, I think I may have once or twice. No doubt someone's got some receipts on there. So if I said no, I didn't, I've never called him a cheerleader, then someone will have a receipt somewhere. So I'm not willing to take that risk. And I actually seem to remember saying it now that you said it. But it depends on Kevin Patillo. So if Patillo starts well and Sirianni, stays in his own lane, then you will absolutely get an under on Sirianni getting fired, regardless of the outcome of games. Otherwise, I'll be over by week 5. So the over or under was 3, yeah? And there's other questions that will come up that will suggest why I would be over or under by week 5.
Phil, did you say by week 1? Is that your final answer?
Yeah, 6 on Thursday night by halftime.
I'm going to go the under because I feel like Tony has come to his senses. You're right about a lot of things, Tony. This one was a miss. I'm wrong about loads of things as well. I think Sirianni's the real deal. I think he's the kind of guy that can build a dynasty because of the people he surrounds himself with and because of his relationship with the players. Is he the best tactical coach in the world? No. Is he a leader that can help provide a culture and a playing field that allows teams to prosper? Yeah. So I'm going to go the under. I don't think there's going to be any shots for that this season. I feel like he's proved too much already as well. You could have made the argument before when the Eagles lost the Super Bowl with the talented team they had, and his play calling and not doing it. That you could make the argument that like someone else could come in and do it. He's brought the team to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. He's won one of them against the best head coach and quarterback in modern day history, bar Belichick and Brady. He's enough in the bank for no one to say anything for a couple of years, at least. So yeah, I'll go for the under on that Sirianni. Number of times Liam reminds listeners he lives in the USA, has a season ticket, and was at the Novacare. Over under 1,436. I'm going to take the over on that one.
Well,
Because
you're
I'm,
already at
It's
one
a bit
I'm probably
insider
already
trading
at
there.
240 something already.
In fact, the over/under should be this. Over or under the amount of yards that Saquon rushes this season.
yeah, exactly. No, yeah, good point, and well made. But yeah, I will continue to give you insights from the ground live here in
No, you keep
Philadelphia,
them. You keep them coming,
Pennsylvania.
fella. Keep them
You
coming.
in Philadelphia?
Yeah, did you not know?
No. That's one.
Uh,
There you go, Tony.
Just not any more pictures of your toes or
They seem to be
people.
creeping into the photos, don't
Yeah,
they?
yeah. Well, toes more than chest hair, which is a bit
New
concerning.
fetish. New fetish.
The rumor behind your back in the WhatsApp group is actually you've got an OnlyFans, and it's just
Well,
it's just a psyop way of promoting that. So
yeah.
whatever, in case my wife listens to this, I don't know what OnlyFans is. It's just
Well,
what
of
other
course.
people tell
I
me.
mean, it's a specific OnlyFans just for my toe. I dip it in different condiments and jams and stuff.
Right, let's move on. Jalen Carter sacks 8.5, guys. Over and under. What are we going with, Tony?
Tony needs a
Ja-
break. Needs a break.
Jalen Carter over 8.5.
I love that.
That's a big bold move. I think he had his breakout last year. I just think he takes another step on, and he could cement himself as one of the best all-time defensive linemen that the Eagles have ever seen.
I completely agree with Tony. I think he's one of the best players in the NFL, let alone the Eagles roster. I think he's getting better and better. I think he's put on a little bit more muscle, leaner muscle this year as well. I think he is going to ball out this year. I can see him getting over 12 sacks for the Eagles this year. I think he's going to be the best player on if not the team, certainly on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think there's a shadow of a doubt. And I think we got more weapons rushing the passer this year than we did last year. When you consider the edge and linebackers and D tackles if Ajoma's stepping up, I just don't think they can afford to triple team him because there's too many of our players can get to the quarterback. So he's going to eat. Give me the over, Phil.
Yeah, definitely over. He's my shout for Defensive Player of the Year. So I'm expecting huge things from this season. There you go.
Well,
Go on over.
Let's just kill that one there. It's a question later in the podcast. Defensive Player in the Year, Jalen Carter. Yes for me. Yes from you, Phil.
Yep.
Yes for Tony. All right, let's just get that one out of the way. Easy one to do. All right, Saquon Barkley. Oh, we've already done that one. Jalen Hurts rushing touchdowns in potentially the last year for the Brotherly Shove, also known as the Tush Push. Last year, he had 14 rushing touchdowns. I've put the over on 13. I think I know where people are going to go with this, but I'm going to go to Tony first. You have the over or the under 13 rushing touchdowns for Mr. Jalen Hurts.
Very quick and simple answer. It will be under 13 this year.
And I'm guessing the reason is the running back room, which we talked about, AJ Dillon, and potentially Estime as well, and maybe passing the ball more.
All the context of the previous hour and 10 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. Phil, any disagreements, or do you think he's going to go over?
It's a really hard one. I really can't decide because we've made valid points. You've all made valid points on why it could be less, but I just feel like the tush push and the 1 yard line are just so effective. You're not getting anyone else to run that. You just know it's automatic, and I feel like that it's not like you can say, like, are we going to try and protect Jalen a bit more? It feels like it's just so automatic now that it's just the system works. I'm going to go over just to go against you guys.
I like it. No, I like it. I mean, it could be the swan song year for the tush push, right? It's very likely that it'll be banned next year, so they might just, rinse and repeat. I mean, it's pretty much automatic from 3 yards out, let alone 1 yard out.
I mean, based on the fact that we ran it in the preseason first game, pretty much the first touchdown of the 2025 preseason was Tanner McKee doing the tush, which I feel like the intent out there is to go and use it as much as possible. So yeah, I'd agree with that.
No, I like it. I'm going to disagree. I think it'll be the under for the points Tony made. If we're keeping score, AJ Brown receiving yards, 1,150 over under. He obviously was under last year, was injured. That is the line that has been given by the bookmakers, by the way, not the line that's been given by me. So I'll give my answer first and smash the over on 1,150. I think AJ Brown is, for the reasons I said earlier, going to have a career year. And I can see him, barring injury, absolutely destroying that number. I've got AJ over 1,400 yards, which he's done twice before, but I've got him over 1,400, let alone 1,150. So the over for me, Tony.
Yeah, I'm going to smush all of the next three guys together, and I think it really just solidifies what I've said about the change in offensive tactics this year. So AJ over 1,150, Smitty over 950, and Jalen passing yards over 3,200. All of them over, and I think that just reflects my thoughts on Saquon going under, Jalen going under on his TDs. I think we put the ball in the air a bit more this year. And if you remember last season, the first 3-4 games, we just could not get the air game going. And as a result, I think that stunted the numbers for the season. Smitty missed 3 games in the 2024 season. If his health and AJ's health stands up, then I think Jalen could not only go over the passing total for last year, but I think he could have his best passing total for his time at the Eagles. So Jalen over 3,200, AJ over 1,150, Smitty over 950.
I agree on all counts. I think Devontae's going over 950 comfortably. I think AJ's going over, as I've said already. And I also agree. Thank you for bringing me back because I did accidentally skip that one. Jalen Hurts, 3,200 passing yards. His best was about 3,912, I think. Certainly just 3,900 passing yards. God, I would love to see Jalen Hurts have a 4,000-yard passing season just to shut everyone the fuck up. Right? He's already won Super Bowl MVP. He's won a Super Bowl title. His accuracy is great. He could squat 600 yards. He can do whatever he wants. This would shut him up completely, everyone up completely. Jalen Hurts over 4,000 yards. Give that to me. Over 3,200. Yes, for sure. Philip, in agreement or any difference?
Yep, in agreement there.
All right. Well, let's get to the last few questions of the podcast, which are our predictions for the award winners. Before I go any further, let's pause for a Loch Lomond ad read.
Celebrate victories, rally through challenges, and bond with fellow fans as you toast with a dram of Loch Lomond single malt whisky. From tailgating gatherings to watch parties at home, Loch Lomond whisky becomes an essential companion, enhancing the moments that make football so extraordinary. It's the perfect accompaniment, from the joy of victory to the bittersweet moments of defeat. Loch Lomond offer a wide range of malts, with their flagship perfectly balanced, and signature expressions Inchmoan and Inchmuirn to suit any taste palate. Celebrate greatness on and off the field this season with a perfect balance of Loch Lomond whisky and Eagles football. From the first pour to the crowd roar. Fly Eagles fly.
I love that "Go Birds" at the end every time. It is me, very loudly. Tony, before we get into those questions, a couple of words from you on the Philly Sports International, British and Irish Eagles and Loch Lomond partnership as we enter another season together. I know there's some exciting news for members of the British and Irish Eagles and PSI this year.
There is, absolutely. We have done it again. So this is the third year of the partnership. So obviously we started off the first couple of seasons of the British and Irish Eagles, but we've taken it one step further this year, and we have gone with Loch Lomond Whiskies and PSI partnership. So delighted to say that the Loch Lomond is going to be sponsoring again this year. And to kind of celebrate the new partnership, the last 2 seasons we've had a Loch Lomond 10-year-old. This season we have aged by another 2 years. So the competition bottles and I can exclusively reveal, the bottle that members will be able to buy will be a Loch Lomond 12-year-old. It will be in the perfectly balanced style of Loch Lomond. So that's the Loch Lomond characteristics of fruit, honey, and soft smoke. And it is a sensational dram. But Phil is looking at me just now saying that you've just said everything that you're going to say in the newsletter, so shut up and keep some of it back so that members can actually read that in the next few days.
I love it, and great to expand that partnership. Feels amazing that we've got the 12-year-old now in play for our members, and just amazed at how our partnership has grown, and just the engagement we get from everyone with the British Irish Eagles, Philly Sports International, and Loch Lomond. So thanks from me, and I know Tony, thanks from everyone who was involved with Philly Sports International.
Feelings mutually. When we talk about whiskey and we talk about a love of whiskey and a love of football, the NFL is a great demographic for whiskey, and I think vice versa. Whiskey is a great demographic for NFL fans. It's such an aspirational drink, and I certainly see the affection for whiskey across the WhatsApp group and the engagement that we get online and things like that. So, removing the PSI hat and putting on the Loch Lomond Whiskies hat, we're delighted to be involved.
Love that. Love all of that. Thanks, Tony. And what I love even more is Eagles MVPs. So the first question for our season awards is the biggest one of them all. So Phil, I'll move over to you here. Who is your Eagles MVP of the regular season? Is it on the defensive side of the ball? Is it on the offensive side of the ball? What have you got for us?
I'm toying between Carter and Jalen Hurts for some obscure reason. I'm just going to go with Jalen Hurts because I know it feels like a cop-out, but I just feel like you pointed to, you twisted me with the Jalen Hurts going over 4,000 passing yards and having that season to finally shut the haters up and get all the receivers over the 1,000 yards, hitting their over and unders. Yeah, I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts just because I feel like it.
Well, just on that point, bringing it back to one of my earlier notes that I put in the chat on the Chris Collinsworth.
Is this the Chris Collinsworth podcast?
Are you trying to get a Slaughterhouse show or something?
On the Chris Collinsworth
interview. Chris, look how many times I mentioned you.
There was a really interesting snippet, which was to do with Peyton Manning. So last year, before the games, Chris gets to interview some of the players when they're playing on Sunday Night Football, and he interviews Jalen. A couple of things he said. Jalen's the most serious person he's ever met in his life, which I don't think is any surprise to anyone listening into this podcast. He said that if he got a smile from Jalen at the end, he felt like he had a good interview. But more importantly, and in line with your point here, Phil, he said I was chatting to Peyton Manning recently, and we were chatting about Jalen Hurts, and I asked. This is him saying I asked Peyton about Jalen Hurts. He says, "Oh, Jalen." He said, "Jalen calls me all the time," and Chris, like me, was like, "Really? Jalen calls Peyton Manning all the time?" Yeah. So apparently, Jalen Hurts calls Peyton Manning all the time to talk about the intelligence side of the NFL, how he prepares for games, how he deals with issues, how he overcomes, how he grows. Not the physical act of throwing the ball or the technique that's used in the passing game, but specifically how he interacts with the intelligent side of the ball. Now, we remember last season, Jalen Hurts spent the offseason or parts of the offseason practicing with Tom Brady, and learning all of that from him, but also learning the mechanics of it. This guy's he's a machine. Jalen Hurts is a machine. He is never going to stop learning. He is never going to stop developing. He is never going to stop getting better. Is he going to have some poor throws every now and again? Sure. But he's going to learn from them. He's going to get better, and they're going to figure it out year on year, season on season. So while I've got a different person for MVP this year, Phil, I do agree, and just wanted to impart that piece of knowledge from that podcast that I've mentioned about 12 times today. Tony, over to you. Who is your MVP?
Yeah, Jalen Alexander Hurts is at the very top of my lists of Eagles MVP. But to go back to your Chris Collinsworth story there, I'm glad that Jalen has had those calls with Peyton Manning, because after Arch Manning's performance at the weekend and a very stuttering start to his Heisman bid, I think Peyton needs to be spending more time on the phone to Arch than on the phone to Jalen. But I can't see past anyone being the Eagles MVP this season than Jalen.
I love it. I'll go. I mean, I think it's gonna be Jalen, but I'll throw another one out there. AJ Brown. You know, I'm saying this. I'm willing this into existence. I think AJ Brown's gonna have a career year. You know, obviously Jalen playing well. AJ being in the MVP conversation means Jalen's also playing well. But give me AJ Brown for MVP this year.
And I think that's what makes it so tough, though, Liam.
It is.
You know, when there's one of the skill positions, maybe the exception of Saquon, in the mix for MVP, it means that Jalen's had a good year as well. And just by default, because of position, Jalen would naturally become the MVP and the other one would become the offensive player of the year.
Yep. Hard to disagree. Maybe Jalen gets an injury. Tanner McKee's throwing the ball. Who knows?
Potentially.
Give me AJ Brown. I don't want that to happen, obviously. All right, offensive player of the year while we're here. Gentlemen, can't be Jalen, obviously. You picked him for MVP.
Saquon for me.
I was literally going to say Saquon as well. I think, yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to beat Liam in competition here, right? Because we're going to take a record of these, you know. So you could go with something quite outlandish and then try and back it up, but then in 3, 4, 5 weeks, months time, you're just going to get it thrown right back in your face. So I'm just going to go for the obvious ones. Saquon Barkley, offensive player of the year, lock it.
It's all for fun. Give me Jalen Hurts, offensive player of the year. I've got AJ Brown for MVP. Makes sense to go for Jalen Hurts there. All right, defensive player of the year. We've already said Jalen Carter. Defensive rookie player of the year. I'm assuming we are all going Jihad Campbell, or is there any shouts for Williams or Makuba? Tony?
Well, I'd written Malachi Starks because I wasn't quite sure if they were going to NFL or Eagles. So it certainly will not be Malachi Starks. I can't. Defensive rookie of the year. You would hope to realise the potential he's got. It's got to be Jihad Campbell, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Jihad Campbell. Mentioned it earlier.
Clean sweep. Offensive rookie player of the year for the Eagles. Tony?
Well, Cam Ward is not going to be the offensive rookie of the year for the Eagles. You need to make your questions a bit clearer.
Sorry, man.
How many rookies on the offense did we sign? I think it was many, was it?
Exactly.
It's like 2. One?
So we
I suppose we got UDFAs.
We got Drew Kendall, center guard. We got Kyle McCord. We got 2 tackles in Miles Hinton and Cameron Williams. They were the not a lot to choose from there. All right.
Well, maybe the decision there is going to be, you know, which rookie will get the most.
Darius Cooper, I suppose you could go with.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, Darius Cooper. That's a fair shout.
Yeah.
I'll take Darius Cooper. All agreed?
Yeah, agreed. Tick.
Okay. This year's Shagger, actually known as not necessarily like the player who is completely unknown, but like the player who we just get up for every week. It was CJ Gardner-Johnson. It was Alex Singleton. It was Zach Bond last year. I think CJ Gardner-Johnson had 2 years of the 5 we're doing. So we've had 4 winners: Alex Singleton, CJ Gardner-Johnson twice, and Zach Bond. Who are you going for your Shagger of the year, Phil?
Jihad again.
Ooh, all right. Nice.
I mean, let's face it, the whole reason I'm excited about him is because he's going to go and smack some people around, get around the edge of being an absolute shagger. It's nailed on.
All right. Sounds good. Tony?
Coop.
Oh, that's a great shout. It's also my shout. Coop is my shagger. Coop is my shagger this year. He's also one of my favorite players on the roster.
I think we need to come up with an official criteria of what shagger is. I feel like it's supposed to be someone who hasn't been an absolute shagger in previous seasons.
We've kind of changed the rules a little bit because the next award is the Zach Bone Award. And the Zach Bowen Award is
Oh
someone
yeah,
who
that's it. That's what I'm probably getting
yeah,
mixed up there. Yeah.
yeah, the Zach Bowen Award is we've kind of made two awards from one. Shagger's the kind of guy you just want to see every week, just like tackle and hit people. But the Zach Bowen Award is someone who you were not expecting to be a huge difference maker for the Eagles.
But Bennett for me, I think.
Ooh, Bennett. Okay, yeah, quarterback.
Ooh,
Interesting.
I would love that, Phil. I so hope that you're right.
I definitely think that he's been not written off, but there's doubts and like he's not going to start and it's going to take over halfway through. I feel like he's going to take over. He's going to lock it down once he gets used to the system and playing around. He's going to come in after week 4, week 5, when we're similar to last season, a bit desperate, and he's going to be that beacon. We're going, yes, we've found the guy for the missing piece for cornerback, and he's going to be looking forward to seeing him come in every week and lock down the outside.
I love it. I love it. It's just me to go then.
No, I have to go as well. But I think you and I are going to be lined up in this one again, Liam. I think it's Moro Jomo.
See, I think Moro Jomo's. I'm not sure that fits in with the Zach Bowen Award.
Well, it does. You just look at his stats for last year.
That's a cop out.
Okay, on you go then.
I think he's been hyped up too much. Zach Bowen Award, like no one was talking about Zach Bowen.
That's true. That's true.
No one was talking. Like I'm talking like Munden or Bennett or Ringo or
Grayson or something.
Grayson or Ojolari or Uche or Gabe Hall. So I'll go with mine. Mine is Trotter. Mine is Trotter Jr. Like no one's really talking about him. Everyone's talking about Jihad Campbell and Bond, the starting linebackers. They're talking about Nakobe Dean coming in and playing after he's an IR. Trotter's like the fourth string guy, and I feel like linebackers has been the position, which has been synonymous with the Shagger Award. I know this is separate. I just feel like Trotter's going to have way more of an impact than we realized this year. I can see Jihad Campbell playing at the edge position. I can see Trotter playing more snaps at starting linebacker. So give me Jermaine Trotter. Alrighty then. Then we've got a couple more. Spicy take for the season. Phil?
Oh, stop going to me. Go to Tony.
Right, I'll give Phil a minute to think about it. Spicy take for this season. If we are not 2-2 or better going into week 5, then we will not win the NFC East.
Interesting. Okay, I can see that. NFC East is stronger this year. Packers are good. You go Washington.
Packers, not the NFC, not the NFC East.
Oh, sorry, the NFC
East. So it's even spicier.
Oh, wow, that is.
So if we are not at least 2-2 going into week 5, then we don't win the NFC East.
Interesting. So if we are 1-3 or 0-4.
Yep.
Interesting.
We don't pull it back. Not in the way that we did last year.
And
if we are 2-2 or better, then we do win the NFC East. I think these 4 games are absolutely critical for the direction of our season. I can't see a repeat of last year where we just don't get things clicking in the way they did in the first 4 games last year. And what I'm basically saying in there is 2 of the games that I think that we lose this year are to the Chiefs. I think they will just have such a hard on to beat us after the Super Bowl. I think it probably comes just a bit too early for us as well. And I hate going down to Tampa. And I see us losing that one as well. But if we lose to the Rams or we lose to the Cowboys, which I don't see, we'll no doubt go into that prediction, then I don't see us winning the NFC East this year.
I like that take. A lot. Phil?
I reckon Darius Cooper's going to score a touchdown before Jahan Dotson this season.
Okay. Nice.
I love that take.
I'm not going to say he's going to have a better season or Dotson's not going to do what we said earlier. I just feel like there's going to be some random touchdown or maybe even a punt return or kick return. Darius Cooper's going to get. I just have got a feeling he's going to have some sort of wild impact and people are going to go absolutely crazy. So I'm just going to Put that one out there.
All right. Been thinking about mine, and I am going to go with Jihad Campbell over. I'm going to go over 11.5 sacks for Jihad Campbell, which would be 3 more than Jared Verse had last year, and would be 7 more, 6.5, 7 more than the average first round linebacker edge. I think Jihad Campbell is going to have, give me 10.5. 11.5 seems like 10.5 sacks for Jihad Campbell for the season. I think if he gets over that, then we've got an absolute superstar in our hands in year one. Alrighty then. Before we go to our record Super Bowl appearance, are the Eagles making the Super Bowl? I'm not asking if they win it. Are they getting to the Super Bowl? Simple yes or no will do. Phil?
No, I think.
Oh, wow. That's your spicy take. No, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to get to the Super Bowl, I know. Tony, do you agree with Phil's no, we're not making it to the Super Bowl?
Sadly, I do agree with Phil.
Oh, yes. The Eagles are going to make the Super Bowl, in my opinion. The Eagles are going to win the
Well,
Super Bowl. We're going to go back to back.
Sincerely hope you're right.
And
Liam, I pray that you're right, fella.
I know you do. I know you do. In-season trade, what position for? I already said safety. I'm going to stick with my pick at safety. I think it could be edge, but I'll stick with my pick at safety. Phil?
Yeah, I was going to say safety as well, based on what we said. Sidney Brown, not confident as him as being the sole backup.
Yep. Tony?
And I'm saying no big moves in season this year. I think Howie's already given up a few picks, and I think he'll want to protect his haul for April next year.
I feel like the Justin Simmons spectre is just floating around, and it's there, and it's almost like it's a done deal. It's just not a done deal, but you know what I mean. It's like a handshake deal. Like, see how the season starts. If we're willing to pay I think the reason why he's not here is because of the cost it get to have him in the building, and I feel like it's going to be see how the season starts. If we're not doing it well enough, pull the trigger.
I love it. I love it. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, 1 hour and 36 minutes in, we have one final question for you both and for me. And that is the Eagles record. We've said it a few times in the build-up, but this is our official submission for the Eagles record for the 2025-26 season for the Philadelphia Eagles. Tony, I'll go to you first because Phil keeps moaning. I'll go to him first. And Phil, maybe you can have a look to see if Mick actually gave us his predictions in the end. Tony, your record for, he didn't. All right, Tony, your record for Philadelphia Eagles this year. What are you going for, my man?
The Philadelphia Eagles, Liam, will win 11 games. They will lose 6 games. They will have a very, very rocky road schedule this year. And I could actually see them winning every game at the link, but losing on the road to the Chiefs, to Tampa, to Green Bay, to Washington, and to Buffalo, plus one other game.
It's a hard schedule for sure. 11 and 6.
11 and 6.
Do not disagree with that entirely. Maybe a little bit. Philip?
11 wins.
Ooh. I love this. So just to clarify all of my terrible takes this podcast, we're ending with you both saying the Eagles are not going to the Super Bowl and you going with the Eagles only winning 11 games. Eagles are going to win 13 games this year. They're going to go 13-4 and they're going to the Super Bowl and they are going to win it all. Ladies and gentlemen, Phil, Tony, thank you for a wonderful preseason podcast. That wraps up the British and Irish Eagles. Tony, you've got something to add in here. Go ahead.
Can I ask just one more question? I know we said that we would try and cut sharp, but we've got a pretty big game on Thursday night.
Sugar. We haven't done our preseason game.
We're not going to have time between now and then to do a preview pod. So let me just float it out to the two of you. What's going to happen on Thursday night?
Phil, me or you?
You go, mate.
I don't think it's going to be the blowout people are talking about. I think the Eagles are going to win. I don't think Dallas are as bad as people are saying either. I don't subscribe to them being very good, but I don't subscribe to them being really bad. Their offensive line isn't awesome, and their run defense isn't the best, although they've just upgraded it. But they've got weapons. Their tight end is pretty good. They've got 2 elite wide receivers, certainly 1 elite, 1 very good wide receiver. The quarterback has the ability to play exceptional and the ability to play terrible. It looks like Sugar, what's his name, Diggs, is not going to play a cornerback on Thursday night. He said he'll be back by week 4. They've just paid Bland $93 million, I think, extension for 4 years. He had a great season 2 years ago, led the league in interceptions. But last year he was injured and didn't have quite the same year. He had a foot injury, I believe, all year. So I think the Eagles are going to win. And I think it'll be by 2 scores. I think it'll be by 10 points. But I don't see the Eagles winning by 20, 30 points here. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. And the Eagles are going to win by 10. So give me 10 plus. Give me 31-20 to the Birds. Phil?
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be particularly high. I think it's going to be a good win, but I don't think we're going to blow anyone out at the first game of the season. I think it's going to be get the win and get out of it. A bit like last season going to Brazil. Just win. Don't. Doesn't have to be pretty. Just has to be solid and no obvious errors. I'm going for a 28-17 win. I feel like it's going to be comfortable, but it's not going to be high scoring. Injury report has just come out. Just so you know.
Go for it.
So Landon Dickinson did not practice, but with back, obviously, got a back, not knee. So, obviously a bit of soreness. Tanner McKee, right thumb, did not practice. Makuba and Uche were limited with hamstring and groin, respectively. And Jalen Carter was a full practice with his shoulder. So, nothing major.
Tony, back to you for your prediction for Thursday.
Yeah, we're surprisingly alike. I think the point differential for both of you was 10 and 11, or even 11 and 11. I was just looking at the spread there. Eagles are plus 7.5, which I think reflects what the bookies thinking it, and that it could be a blowout, but they're just trying to tempt you into.
I forgot you always do the over/under.
Yeah, so. I think it's going to be one of those start of the seasons where we've unfurled the champions flag. There's a huge amount of expectation, and we come out the game with a win. Probably Justin no more covered the spread, so I'm probably in the same kind of brackets as you guys of 8s, 9s, 10s of a point difference. But I don't think it's going to be a comfortable win, and it's going to be one that we are pondering in a week or so's time. And saying, what do we need to improve?
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that first game of the season. I think the most important thing, as you mentioned there, Phil, as well, is just get the W. Get the W. Let's get Dallas out of here. Let's drop the flag. Say fuck you to Jerry Jones, and then whatever. I'm sure there'll be a lot to pack next week. Tony, thanks for bringing that back to us here, and make sure we get that in before the podcast ends. It's going to be fun. I will obviously be there.
Enjoy it. I was just going to say, have an absolute blast. It's a bucket list thing for me, watching our team unfurling the flag in the flesh. So I am incredibly jealous of you being there. Sing one for us, drink one for us, and go Birds.
Sounds great. Hope everyone listening in has an incredible time wherever you're watching it around the world. And that the Eagles have a good performance. Keep following us on social media for any updates between now and then. For the game, any updates on Loch Lomond, on our watch-alongs for the year at Passion Avenue, who also sponsor our podcast. We are the British and Irish Eagles. We are Philly Sports International. We are here for you, the fans of Philadelphia Eagles and all Philly sports teams all around the world. Let's go Birds. Let's go get that win. Go Birds.
Fly, Eagles, fly.